Right, everybody. We're coming to you live right here at Yates, 3650 Alabama. Man, we're in this nice, beautiful auditorium that we're trying to get to name it after Mr. William Holland, who was a Jack Yates principal from 1940 all the way until 1958 at the address of 2610 Elgin. Got Mr. Quentin in here, and he finished from Jack Yates in 1986, right?
Absolutely, 1986.
Okay, Mr. Quentin, you have informed me in a lot of things. First of all, about what it's going to take for us to get this auditorium named after Mr. Holland, and also get the swimming pool named after Raymond Daniels, and the tennis court named after Doc Evans and Georgia Harris, and also the track field over there. We're going to name it after Mr. Mohead and Mr. Bush, who already passed away. And the baseball field will be named after Andrew Pat Patterson. Okay, now for us to do this, what steps do we have to go through, Quentin? And also, how do we go about doing this, Quentin? I'm going to let you hold the mic.
The process is relatively easy. You submit documentation to the board, the school board, and you explain to them what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it, the achievements that those individuals have made when they were part of Yates or at Yates or Yates graduates. And then the superintendent puts a committee together, and then they review it, and then you get your decision. It's a relatively I'm not going to say it's a relatively quick process, but it's a process that's not very difficult. And just talking with one of the board members, it's not, it doesn't cost anything to do it. It's just writing a letter to ask them to open up this inquiry about naming an auditorium or a building or field on this campus about someone who's done this.
Who have already contributed something to the legacy of the school.
Absolutely.
Okay, now,
that's all it is.
Now, now, when we get this petition together, do we have to get people's signatures?
It's from what my understanding, it's not a petition. You're just writing a letter.
Okay.
And asking and telling them what you want. They put the committee together. Once they put the committee together from the school board level, then they come back to you and they give you what the requirements are. But that's it.
Okay. So now we'll close this out so we know what we have to do for the Fabulous 50s on naming the auditorium after Holland, Mr. Holland, and the baseball field after Mr. Patterson, and the basketball, we're going to try to name it after Doc Evans.
Okay.
And also the swimming pool after Raymond Daniels.
Okay.
Because all these people have done something for the school.
Absolutely.
Because I am the historian for the school. And I know that these people have contributed something to the legacy of Jack Yates.
Right.
Now, let's get down to the real business of why we're here today, about this field, about this turf. Tell us what you know about this,
okay.
Mr. Quentin.
After attending a meeting last Thursday, which is the first meeting that I've attended regarding this field, and my understanding, they've had the project for about 15 to 18, almost 18 months. And the problem is that they have not, the consortium did a great job of going out and getting the grant, and I applaud them for doing that. However, once the grant was received, they didn't tell the Yates alumni and everyone who needs to be involved to make the donations that is a matching grant, which means it's $450,000, 200 here, then 250 over here. But you have to raise those dollars to match the 200, to match the 250, so the 200 and the 250 get released to you. And it's a time-sensitive thing. So getting the extensions that they've gotten, we have until May of 2023 to get this matched, or the grant goes away. So that's where we are with that. The Texans have donated the turf, so we have the turf. It's sitting in the facility waiting to be installed. And we've run into some entanglements that we've recently found out about. One vendor is supposed to be the only one that could lay the turf. And that becomes a stickler because their estimated price that they've given us, that the consortium showed us, is $880,000. And another company that have laid turf around the city, you get different vendors, is going to be between $400,000 and $500,000 at the most.
So they're doubling the profit.
So the price is twice as much as the next vendor. So
right.
Yes.
So why can't they leave it at the vendor? Bid it on the cheaper vendor and let them go and lay the turf down.
Well, if my understanding is if you go through the HSD procurement process, then that's different. But right now, that process, according to what we were told Thursday night, was waived, so they can only use that vendor, which is where the part we have to try to get resolved. If we can use a different vendor, great. If we can't use a different vendor, now we have to go to $450,000 that we have to come up with in the next 5 months.
Okay, now the check that Cal McNair wrote out, I videoed that, and it was written out to change happened. It was $350,000. And this is what a lot of people and alumni, especially some of the older Jack Yates in the Fabulous 50s and the Roaring 60s and the Roaring 70s, they want to know what happened to the $350,000 check that they written to change happen.
Right, and it's 200 from the grassroots part, and then it's a 250 from the NFL. So it's either one or the other, but it's 250 and 200,000. So it ends up being 450. Okay, so 200 sits in an account based on what Ms. Stagg told us from Change Happens at Co-America Bank. It sits in an account there. So that's where that 200,000 is, and those funds won't be released until we match those in different increments. So let's say 90 days we come up with 50,000, then we can give them 50, and then they give us 50. So then you have 100. Okay, so that 200 sits there. So the money has never exchanged hands, according to what she told us the other night. So the money sits in the account. So the money's never gotten to anyone's hands. So and it's never been turned into HISD at all.
In other words, the check that Cal McNair came out here with Rodney Ellis, now, and we videoed it, a $350,000 check. So that never did exist.
I'm not going to say it didn't exist, because it's 250 over here and 200 here. 200 is in one account, and once you raise the other funds, then you can go get the other 250.
So what? I'm still.
We'll give you the grant as long as you match it.
So what the $350,000? Why did Cal write that?
That's the same money. You have to. It's a matching grant. Both of these grants are matching grants.
So in other words, they got to match the $350,000.
The 450. It's 450. Yes.
They got to match. Well, what did the other 100? But where did the 100,000 come from? Because the 350,000 was the check that was written out.
I wasn't here. I didn't see the check. I know one grant is 200, and I know one grant is 250. So I'm not sure what the number. The 350
okay, what the numbers
from,
at? But now, but the 250, the 250,000.
Okay.
That was donated by the Texans.
So it's one that's a grassroots foundation.
What is the grassroots? Break that down.
That's just what they call it. That's just the name that they give the grassroots foundation from the NFL, because it goes back into the community. So they call it grassroots grant.
Okay, so this is not just about the Texans. It's about the NFL.
Right. So you have an NFL grant and a Texans grant.
Okay, so you got two grants.
Yes.
Okay.
One's for 200, one's for 250.
So that's 450,000.
Correct.
But for them to lay the turf down, they got to match the 450.
Yes.
If they don't match the 450, it goes back.
Yes.
To the Texans and the NFL.
Right. Unless you can raise enough to pay for what you need. So hypothetically, if you only needed 500,000 to lay the turf, you only need to raise 250, and you'll get 250. Okay. So if you can do that, you can raise 250 instead of raising 450 to match it. You only need 250. You just raise 250, and then you get it installed, and then you're done.
Okay.
The most the grant can give you is 450.
Right, but you got to match the 450.
You have to match whatever you raise, they match.
So right now, they haven't raised the money.
Correct.
So therefore, and we got until May of 2023.
Yes.
And if they don't raise it by May 23, then the Texans don't even have to pay that 250,000, and the NFL don't have to pay the 200,000.
You lose the grant, goes away. The grant goes away.
And then the turf goes back to the.
And it goes back into the bidding process or the grant writing process.
So in other words, they bidded on that.
They wrote a grant, yes. It wasn't a bid. They wrote a grant. They wrote, and for the application, the consortium, which is Change Happens, which is the fiscal agent who filled out the paperwork for the grant.
Okay, and Jack Yates, and how did Jack Yates get involved in it?
Because, the way the NFL grant system works, you have to have a 501c3 that applies for the grant. Okay. Change Happens is the 501c3 that this consortium got together and wrote the grant with change happens for the benefactor of Jack Yates Senior High School. So it'll be placed over at Jack Yates Senior High School.
Okay.
That's how Jack Yates got involved.
Okay, so Jack Yates got involved. That's the reason why when I looked at the check, Mr. Quentin, the head down on the bottom there was a memo, Jack Yates Field.
Yes.
So that would let them know that the grant that they got to come up with, this is what the money is supposed to match for the Jack Yates Field.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So that's the reason why they out there. And so how did the JYNAA, they got involved in this, and now did they promise, do you know, if they promised somebody that they was going to raise this kind of fund?
I have no idea. I don't know who's involved with Jack Yates NAA. Don't know who.
What was happening? But evidently,
I have no idea.
But evidently, the alumni of the JYAA is involved now.
Yes.
Okay, that's the only thing we want to know. They are involved. Now, how they got involved, we don't know. That ain't our business. But the bottom line, me being part of Jack Yates, the bottom line is that I'm working with Jack Yates just like you, Quentin.
Right.
As an alumni, as a conservative alumni out here. And anything that concerns Jack Yates, it concerned us.
Correct.
Because too many people have graduated, alumni, like in your class of 86 and all the people in the late 80s, they looking upon you to give them the results. You and Monroe, they look upon y'all to give them the results of what the hell is going on over there.
Right.
So we got to report to them because they looking up to us. Whether people in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, they looking up to me to do this. That's why I got you to help me, because I don't know all the ins and outs and the situation of how it happened. Only thing I know is a mess right now. And by the May the 23rd, if I'm not, May of 2023, if they haven't raised the money, the grant goes away.
Yes.
So where is the turf? The turf is at NRG?
The turf is stored in the warehouse someplace.
Okay, right.
I know where it is. I just can't think.
Right. In other words, it's stored away. It's not in Cal McNair in the NFL way right now.
No, it's not in their way. No.
Okay, that's what we was concerned about. Was the turf in their way, and until they match that form, that fund, then the turf will stay there. And if they don't match that form, then the turf will go to the next high school that want to bid on the turf.
It's not necessarily a bid. It's a grant application process. It's not a bid.
Okay, so therefore, since it's not a bid, so therefore the next high school in line can apply for that grant?
Yes.
Okay. Now just so happened, someone, we don't know who it was, who we really don't care. But the bottom line, it involved Jack Yates.
Correct.
And somebody, we don't know, like I say, who actually was put us into that mix of this situation. We just know that we in the situation and how and what we got to do to get out of the situation. Now, for those people who don't want to care about the turf and knowing that there's more things other than a turf of the school with scholarships, kids needing band uniform, a lot of other things that are so important to the school other than a doggone turf. And the money can go into some other things that the school need. Is this right?
Other donations can.
Other donation.
That grant has to go to that field.
Right, but as far as that money that the NFL and Cal McNair put up, that's got to go toward that field.
Yes.
And if it don't go toward the field, it's not valid.
Right. So if there's money that's left over, then you can add. There's some part of that where you can use other parts of that money that's left over after you've completed the project.
Right.
But you have to complete the project first.
And right now, this is where we're standing at in the project, is that they don't have the money yet to lay the turf down.
Correct.
And HISD, were they sitting in the background just waiting to see what the hell is going on?
We're talking with Dr. Allen, who was a school board president last September when the field was named after George. Talking with her, HISD has no part in this, okay? And the reason they have no part in this is because, one, they didn't fill out the grant, and two, no money's been turned into them. There's nothing that they can do. It's not their problem yet because nothing is on their property. Nothing was given to them, and no money has been given to them for this project.
So the only thing that we're doing right now, Mr. Quentin, is just a whole lot of talk.
Well, part of that is because of the way that the grants are written. It has to go to a 501c3 organization. So that's the way the NFL grants are written. Now, what happens if, let's say that this was written to Jack Yates PTO and it was a 501c3.
Okay.
It's in HISD's building. Now HISD has a say-so. Okay, but the only way you can get this grant is if you have 3 years worth of financials that show you actually have money
to do this,
to do something like this, do this big. So that's why they went to go get Change Happens. That's why they couldn't use JYNA. That's why they couldn't use Jump 88. That's why they couldn't use a 501c3 that wasn't 3 years old, didn't have 3 years worth of financials to submit with this grant. That's why they had to go get Change Happens. They submitted this grant twice and got denied, from what Carl told me a long time ago. Okay, so that's the only way you can get the grant. They have to see that you have this money.
They have the money.
Right. So if you don't have the money, they're not going to give you the grant to start with. If you can't show 3 years of financial, you're not going to get the grant to start with.
So that's the way, and
requirement to start with.
So in other words, what it looked like to me, Change that happened, co-signed for this here on the impression that they could come up with the rest of the money.
Working with the consortium.
Right. So
I will agree with that statement. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just kind of breaking it down where people can really relate with it.
I would agree with your statement. Yes.
Yeah. So therefore, what have really came down now is that Change that happened. See that this what we might call a repo or something that's getting ready to go bad. So Change happened. They saying that, hey man, if y'all can't match the funds, then we just gonna have to 86 the deal out. Cancel it all out.
And talking with the CEO, Helen Stagg of Change Happens, she has been above board with my conversation with her. I've talked with her and emailed her back and forth multiple times in the last 5 or 6 days. And she is like, help us get this done. We are here to help you get this done. We want this done. She's been very transparent. She sent me 15 emails in the last 2 days regarding the project and how this has been laid out. And when you go back and look at the emails as of last year in December, you see something there. And then you see another email dated last March and you see something. Well, why didn't y'all say something? The consortium did the part, the consortium of if it's Chump 88 or if it's JYNAA, if it's the other one that Carl, it's those that are listed at the bottom of this project when you look at ChangeHappens.org's website. That's the consortium. So I don't know their name, so I just say the consortium, which is what they're listed.
Right.
So
we're
when
not here nobody under the bus.
Just call them the consortium.
We just want to get a clearance of the type of people who went out and put us on the hot seat on this turf.
Right, and I'm not sure if they understood everything when they did it. I don't know if they all understood what they were getting themselves into. I know about the grants because when we go to our NFL alumni meetings every year in Chicago, they talk about grants. They give former NFL players grants all the time, but it has to be at your school. So if I worked at Yates, this would be a lot easier. But I don't work at Yates.
Right.
Okay.
And the thing about it, George Floyd don't work at Yates.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
So when you get these grants, there's processes. They're not easy. I mean, I know how to navigate them.
Right.
But they didn't, and so that becomes a problem. Is now they're stuck with they have to do this, they have to do that, and you've been knowing you had to do something
from the get-go.
From documented in April that you just sent me, and you just told us the whole meeting. People that were at the meeting the other night. On Thursday, that we have to use the vendor that the Texans gave us, and that vendor is $880,000 plus, where you can get someone else to install a field for at best $400,000.
And then is that the Texans saying that they got to use this?
Well, that's what we were. That's what we were instructed that they have to use their vendor.
Right, so that means they have to use the NFL and the Texan vendor to install a turf.
But here becomes the question. This is HISD property. we love Yates, but HISD owns Yates.
Right.
HISD owns this property. You can't build on HISD property without proper procedures and protocols.
Right. And they never went through that.
So if they're not an HISD vendor, so now what? You see what I mean?
Right. So HISD can squash the whole deal if they want to, right? Because it's their property.
Yeah. And at some point last month, October 18th, 19th, 20th, something like that, whenever it was, there was a sign that was put up on this property at Yates that says Hellas is starting a construction project.
Who now?
Hellas, this vendor, was going to build this field.
Oh, he put a sign out
They put a sign out there. And the school board member saw it.
Right.
Called the school's attorney, and called Hellas and said, who told you to put that sign on our property?
Right.
That sign came down the next day. No one knew who authorized the sign.
Right. They just assumed that they were going to come up with the money, and they went on their own without getting authorization to throw the sign up there.
And the sign came down to us.
And Ellis is the people who they supposed to be calling the $800,000 to install the turf.
Right.
Man, I appreciate it, Quentin. You have opened up a lot of eyes, man. Thank you, brother. And we're going to stay on top of this. And you say they got to May 2023
Correct.
to either, like some people say, get in the kitchen or get out of the kitchen.
Right.
Thank you so much, Quentin.
Thank you. No problem.
God bless you.